at the Paleo-Indians. So these are pre-Native Americans, okay? We're talking 11,100 to 10,450 BC. So a long time ago. Does that make sense? Long time ago. This is where these settlements have been found. What do you notice about the locations of those settlements and the relative locations of big cities now? They are. I think that goes really close to this number 2, doesn't it? Yeah, number 2 says, why do you think the cities are located at these locations? So let's talk about the Paleo-Indian sites first, right? Yesterday, do you remember we talked about if you're going to move somewhere, what are you looking for? Where are you going to move? And we listed things like we want to be near resource, we want to be near stores, we want to be near cultural events, but it really gets down to needing to be near what? Water. Yeah, we've got to be near the water, otherwise we can't live. So why do we think they're located near these sites? Because of water. Iowa is lucky in that it has tons of rivers that go through. Oh, you can't see that. I'm sorry. Boom. Tons of water. That's exactly what I just said. We have tons of rivers. If you look at all of those blue lines, those are all rivers that go through Iowa. I drove with my daughter last weekend from Iowa City up in this area, and I crossed, I want to say we count things because she's little and, counting keeps her engaged in the car. We counted something like we crossed like 10 different rivers 10 different times. Now we crossed the Cedar River like 4 times. But, there's a lot of water around here. That's really, really cool. But those things, especially the Des Moines River that goes down through here, right? And the Cedar River, which goes down through here. You got the Mississippi on this side, got the Missouri over here, right? Raccoon goes into Des Moines, feeds in that way. That's a lot of water. You look really confused over there. You good? Yeah. Go, Beth.
I said, some of the modern day cities are located where they are because that's where ancient cities were. So they just kind of kept, I guess, looking at.
Kept on keeping on. So I don't think that's a bad answer. One thing to remember though is that these Paleo-Indian sites, these Paleo-Indians were here a long time ago, and they may have, that group may have moved, they may have died off, whatever. But I think the idea of what you're saying is still valid, right? There are things that the Paleo-Indians saw about being along this line, You with me there? Same as those blue lines I drew over there. Yeah. And the pioneers that were moving west, remember we talked about Laura Ingalls Wilder, right? And all of those, at that time, there were some native peoples that were living here at the time, okay? But when they picked those sites for, Iowa City and Cedar Rapids and the reason they picked them is because they were the same human need to be near water in all of those cases. So if we look at this, I'm not going to really answer that first question, but there's Des Moines, right? And this right here is right over in this area where there's a bunch of stuff. And then we've got, it's kind of funny because there's a bunch of stuff down here. I don't know if you guys have been to Southwest Iowa before. There's not a lot of stuff going on in Southwest Iowa. No offense to anyone whose family is from there or anything like that, but there are not a lot of people out there. But over in this area, there's tons and tons of water up here, right along the Mississippi, right along the Des Moines River and the Raccoon River, right? All of those things like that. Keyword there is what? Water. You're right. All right. Speaking of water and other natural resources, will you send somebody up from your table? Maybe let's pick the person with the shortest hair. I don't know. Shortest hair. Come up and get some paper. One per person.
I'm pretty sure I
Dude, look at my team. Did I say 9:15? 9:25. Okay, good. I was worried. I was like, oh man. We're gonna move on to something different, so I want to make sure that I'm pacing myself well. I mean, something is happening. It's not like a super exciting thing that's happening though. Yeah. All right. So everybody's got this gray sheet. This gray sheet is going to guide us through a short video that's going to answer a bunch of questions. So again, this is not a turn your brain off video. This is a engage with and take a look. So before we do this, before I actually push play, I want you to take a minute to look at the questions. hold on just a second, I'll answer your question. To underline the things that you're going to be listening for so that you know what you're keying in on, not like you have to stare at the question until somebody says it, right? Look at the questions now so that you know what you're looking for. Yes, ma'am.
Is it like in order of the video?
I believe it is. Yes. But, sometimes like, I don't know if you've ever noticed this when you've been watching a video and answering questions. Like sometimes they go boop, 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 like really fast. And sometimes it's like a long time between them. So that's why I wanted you to take a look for them so that you know, like, okay, this is the kind of thing I need to be listening for. This is the kind of thing I need to be listening for. So have you had a minute to pre-read, to underline, to circle things so you know what you're looking for? I'm going to turn the volume on. Oh, it's going to be really loud. Say that one more time. Subtitles. Absolutely. I just couldn't hear what you said. Yes, I think it has subtitles, and if it does, then absolutely I will. All right. It is National Burrito Day. I know, right? You are not the first person to say that. Okay, let's make sure we've got some volume here. Oh, that's going to be loud. Sweet. All right. Here we go, friends.
Consider when studying a place is natural resources. Natural resources are the materials found in nature that people utilize in their lives. Water, land, and air are Earth's three basic resources.
All right, I'm going to pause right there because if you did those were back to back to back, right? Questions 1 and 2. Boom, 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 boom. Water, air, and land were the three natural resources. And hey, what are natural resources?
In nature.
And materials found in nature.
That people utilize.
Humans utilize, yep. You got it. Utilize or need. All right. How are we doing, team? We ready? Sweet. All right, so now we're listening for 5 areas of vegetation on Earth. 2. And 2 ways. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong. Name 2 ways people might change the natural vegetation of an area to fit their needs. Here we go.
Other natural resources come from these 3, such as plants that grow on land or fish that live in water. The top layer of the land, the soil, is essential for the growth of another natural resource, vegetation. Trees, flowers, and grasses are all different forms of vegetation. There are 5 main types of natural vegetation regions found on the Earth: forest, savanna, grassland, tundra, and desert.
Have you guys heard those before? Like, did you talk about those in junior high, maybe social studies or something like that? Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that those sounded familiar to you.
A forest is a place where trees are the main form of vegetation. Trees require a lot of water, so forests are generally found in climatic regions with frequent precipitation. Savannas are grassy areas with some trees growing. Savannas are found in regions that receive less precipitation than forest areas. Grasslands may be covered with a variety of different types of grasses. Grassland regions receive less rainfall than savannas and have few, if any, trees. A tundra is a type of plain found in polar regions. Here, the ground underneath the soil remains frozen all year long. The surface, however, is warm enough to allow small plants such as grass and moss to grow. Trees cannot grow on the tundra. Deserts are dry areas where very few plants grow. Only plants that can live for long periods without water, such as cacti, can survive here.
I was just about to ask, where do we live? And then this popped up. That's funny. Yeah. Okay.
If you looked at a map of the natural vegetation regions of the United States, you would see that nearly the entire eastern half of the country is covered by forests. But you know that in reality, it is not. That is because people have adapted the natural vegetation of the area to fit their needs. In this case, they have cleared some of the forests to create farmland to grow crops. Food crops, such as grains, fruits, and vegetables, and industrial crops, such as cotton and rubber, are all examples of planted vegetation. Another way in which people change the natural vegetation of an area is by supplying water to a dry region in order to make the land suitable for farming. This process is called irrigation. Much of the western half of the United States depends on irrigation in order to grow crops.
Okay, so that was the answer to question number 3, right?
Well, I only got 2. What was the third?
So name 2 ways that people might change the natural vegetation. What was the first one?
Clearing forest, growing crops.
Yeah, clearing the forest first so that you can grow the crops. That's the first one. And then the second was supplying water, and that's called irrigation. Yep. Luckily in Iowa we don't have to irrigate much. We mostly just clear it out.
Vegetation is an example of a renewable resource. Crops can be grown, harvested, and replanted over and over again.
Hey, look, that's question 4.
When trees are cut down to make paper products, new trees can be planted in their place. People depend on the land as a resource, not only for what grows on the land, but also for what forms in the land. Natural resources found in the land are called minerals. Minerals are usually divided into 2 categories, metals and nonmetals. Metals generally are solid, shiny, and can be molded and shaped. Some metals are rare and therefore quite valuable, such as gold and silver. Others, like aluminum and iron ore, are more plentiful and are used in great quantities for manufacturing. Nonmetals include a wide variety of minerals used for many different purposes. Some, such as nitrates and sulfurs, are used as fertilizers.
How are these minerals below used by our human population? Nitrates and sulfurs are minerals. And what are they used for? For fertilizer. Absolutely. We use this all the time. Okay? We'll talk a little bit more about nitrates in water in a little bit.
Others, such as sand and clay, are common building materials.
So that's question 5, part B, right? All right, let's keep cruising.
The human body requires small quantities of minerals as nutrients to help it function properly. Fossil fuels are another form of nonmetal minerals. Fossil fuels include coal, petroleum oil, and natural gas. They get their name because they are formed from the fossils of dead plants and animals. Fossil fuels have many important uses, such as heating buildings and running machinery, such as automobiles. Unlike vegetation, people cannot grow new minerals. They can only mine or take out of the ground what exists naturally. Minerals, then, are a non-renewable resource. Some minerals, however, can be reused. Aluminum cans, for example, can be melted down and used to make new aluminum products. This method of using things over again is called recycling. Recycling and conservation will help make Earth's mineral resources last longer. Air and water, Earth's 2 other basic natural resources, are just as valuable as land. In fact, life on Earth could not exist without air and water. When geographers and scientists talk about air, They usually refer to it as the Earth's atmosphere. The term atmosphere includes the entire layer of air surrounding the Earth. The Earth's atmosphere is made up of a number of different gases, including oxygen, which is essential to human and animal life, and carbon dioxide, which plants need in order to grow. Water, too, is essential to human life. Humans cannot live without fresh water to drink. Most of the water found on the Earth is salt water, and therefore not suitable for drinking. But the oceans, with their abundance of fish and other seafood, are an important food source for many people. Water and air, like minerals, are non-renewable resources. No more can be created. For this reason, it is extremely important for us to take care of these valuable resources.
So that was number 7, right? Keeping you on there. So why could we consider water and air as non-renewable resources? What's the answer for that? Yeah, we're not going to create any more. We've got as much as we've got, right? We can clean it, but we can't get more of it.
For years, people have been using air and water with little concern for conservation. Rivers and lakes have become polluted, and many industries have been releasing harmful smoke and gases into the air. Fortunately, people have begun to realize the importance of conserving air, water, and other natural resources. Laws have been passed to regulate pollution, and people are making an effort to limit their use of non-renewable resources.
Do you guys have questions over there? What's going on? Do you need something?
No.
Okay, then your attention and focus should be up here, please. Okay? If you have a question, I'm super happy to help you out. Otherwise, pay attention, please.
Resources. We all must do our part to ensure that Earth's natural resources remain long after we are gone. Just as water, landforms, and climate influence people's lives, natural resources too affect how people live in different regions of the world. For example, the natural resources available in a particular region can determine the type of houses people live in. In forest regions, most houses are built of wood, while in desert regions where there are no trees, people build their houses with bricks made from clay. These are called adobe houses. Natural resources can also determine what people do for a living. In areas with coal and iron ore deposits, many people work as miners. These mineral resources also provide jobs for those who process the iron ore into steel at steel mills. The Earth is a vast place containing many different bodies of water, landforms, and climates, and there are people living in nearly every region of the Earth. However, people are not scattered evenly across the Earth. Some areas are quite heavily populated, while others are more thinly settled. When geographers discuss the number of people living in an area, they use the term population density. Population density is affected by a number of geographic factors. Few people live in areas that are too dry, like the desert, or too cold, like Antarctica. They don't live in areas that are too hard to reach, such as extremely mountainous regions. And they don't live in areas where the soil is too sandy or too rocky for farming. Instead, most people live in areas where they can find the natural resources to meet their needs. And since resources are not distributed evenly across the Earth, neither are people. Historically, people have settled in areas with good soil, a fresh water supply, and ample sunlight. With these things, they were able to grow the food they needed in order to survive. Other natural resources, such as minerals and fossil fuels, attracted people too. Oil deposits discovered in the Middle East transformed a barren desert region into a land of modern cities and wealthy oil companies. places have every resource its people need. As a result, people have had to engage in trade with other parts of the world in order to obtain the resources they want. When people from different areas come into contact with one another, often more than goods are exchanged. They also trade ideas and customs. This interaction among different regions of the world leads us to our final discussion.
I'm gonna pause there real quick so that you make sure that you get numbers 8 and 9. So number 8 said, 5?
No.
Oh, okay. Number 8 was what are some of the results of unequal distribution of natural resources across the earth? Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the big one, right? Because the resources are distributed evenly, the people aren't going to distribute themselves evenly, right? Absolutely. Because people need to settle where? Where are they going to go? Where they can live, yeah. Where there are resources to be had, right? To utilize. And then question 9 says historically, I think is what it's supposed to say. What types of resources were people looking for when they settled in a new land? Soil, sunlight, water, right? Those are the big 3 when you're first trying to start a civilization, right? Why do you need them? They didn't have stores. They didn't have places to go get things. You need to be able to eat. You need to be able to drink. You need to be able to build yourself shelter, right? Absolutely. Almost done. We'll find out.
Is this the post-video discussion?
Another feature geographers consider when studying a place is natural resources. Natural resources are the materials found in nature that people utilize in their
I'm sorry. That was not intentional. I'm sorry. I thought we did we do that?
different regions of the world leads us to our final discussion.
Oh, that's where she ended. Leads us to our final discussion. Ta-da! It was misleading. You're gonna look at the 2 questions at the bottom, or on the back, on the back. The post-video discussion questions. Do you see those 2? At your table, I'd like you to have a conversation. I need everybody to sit up. I need everybody to be engaged. Have a conversation where everyone shares ideas. Maybe start with the person with the longest hair and have them read the question, and then the person to the left can give their answer, and then go around from there, okay? Share your ideas, friends. Go, go, go. You want to answer the first one? All right, friends. We're going to come together and answer these questions together just to make sure that we can share all of our ideas out. These are not one answer, one correct response questions. They're good fodder for conversation. As such, let's pay attention. Let's show respect to our classmates and have a conversation here. So it says, post-video discussions. How are people's lifestyles affected by the natural resources in their area? So Haley really wanted to start us off. Go ahead.
I said people have jobs based on the natural resources in their area.
Sure. Absolutely. So job choice. Absolutely. What else did you say? Go, Livy.
How much they have to adapt. See the forest. They have to cut down trees to make room for their crops. But if they lived in a time factor, they have to find a different way to make crops.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know if in history classes or social studies classes you've ever read memoirs or things about people that lived a long time ago or live in different areas. Even today, we have so much free time here to do with as we choose. But there are some people who, in order to survive, right, their lifestyle is all about getting food and water every day. Like that is the thing that keeps them going every day, in and out. The next day starts and you just start over, right? So that absolutely is true, depending on where you are and the amount of adaptation you need to undertake. Yeah.
How the houses are built.
Absolutely. The types of houses. or shelter. Has anybody been down to the Southwest and like New Mexico, Arizona, even like Utah? Yeah, what do the houses look like down there?
It's like the weird material that's like all one. I don't know what it's like.
It's super weird. It's called adobe. Yeah, and it's like made out of clay, and it looks very strange, doesn't it?
Like the Spanish style home.
Yeah. And like every house is made that. It's just like you know, when you drive through North Liberty and these new developments, like every house looks kind of the same. You know what I'm talking about? It's the same thing there, except that they don't look like our houses. They all are this adobe stuff with the like clay roofs, right? And part of that style, because let's be honest, with all of our transportation things, they could get the same materials that we have here. We could get the same things they have there. Doesn't seem very sustainable and resourceful, but that's part of the style, but it's also part of what they have available. Yeah, totally good call. I feel like I saw another hand. Where'd it go? Anybody?
Yeah, I was kind of on top of that, so I decided maybe not.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Anybody else have anything else about people's lifestyles and the effect of the natural resources?
It could affect the culture.
The culture, what do you mean?
So like clothing, like that's part of it because certain, like we may not have resources to make clothing like people do in other countries, and same for them.
Absolutely. The types of clothing. What else in terms of culture? Is that where you're going, or you have something else?
Oh, I was gonna say something.
Go ahead. I'll come back to that too.
What we eat?
That kind of goes to what I was thinking too. Yeah, what we eat, absolutely. So I'm gonna say food, maybe.
What you can grow.
And what's available, right? So a really good example of that. How many of you guys love seafood?
I like shrimp.
See, it's really, really interesting because you get a whole bunch of Iowa kids together and you ask them who likes seafood. There's like one, like maybe hand, right? But if I found, here's the thing though. If I go to Baltimore, friends, we're not judging. We're opening our minds. This is what we're doing right now because if I went to Baltimore, which is not like that culturally different. I have cousins that live there. And if I went into a 9th grade earth science class and I said, who likes seafood? Every single kid, maybe one wouldn't have, like every kid, because that's what they've grown up eating. Because they're right on the ocean. They have fresh seafood there. And that's just part of their culture. So there are two pieces to this. Number one, it's a lot about exposure. I didn't eat seafood when I was a kid because I grew up in Iowa too. But now I've had it, and I'm not a huge seafood person, but some of it's really pretty good. That's one deal. The other thing, and this comes to the reaction that I had when I started asking this, because I want to remind you that when you meet people that are from a different area, and this may be a different culture, but it also might just be a different region of the United States, right? To judge and to be like, whoa, what you're eating is nasty, is number one, super rude. Number two, you don't actually know that because you've never tried it. And number three, like, grow your horizons. Try it. Just try it one time. And no judgment. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you might just discover you like it. What'd you say? I sound like what? Really? Well, the reason that I say that is because, as I said, in my experience, I didn't do seafood when I was a kid. Like, it just wasn't a thing we ate. But now I've had it. It's not bad. I don't like sushi, though. I tried it. I ate sushi in Japan because I figure, if you're going to eat sushi, you might as well do it there.
Yeah.
Not my thing. But little Japanese kids who have grown up eating that, it is no big deal. And there are probably things that you eat that they'd be like, what the heck? All right, we got to keep going because Sally's going to cut me off in 3 minutes. Go.
And we went to Florida, I went to a restaurant, and I asked for ranch, and they looked at me like I was crazy.
Because so that would be the thing, right? You go so ranch, like, it's cultural. All right, I need your attention in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. on to number 2. It says, define the term population density and discuss the geographic landform and factors that influence it. What does that mean? Go. Okay. So how many people? Are in, can I say a region or an area? Like how many people per area, right? Like are they really tightly packed or are they not? And how do geographic landforms influence that? What's that? Water, good soil, you're going to have higher population density, right? Mountains, low population density, right? Is this making sense? You guys have heard this spiel. All right. You're going to give me an extra 2 minutes because we got to do some notes. Here they go. All right. Natural resources notes, friends. No, 27. 27. All right. On the back, I'm going to do notes. These are notes that you should, like, this is stuff, we're just repeating what we saw in the video, but just putting it down so we've got it. So we're going to go quickly, but I need your brains up here with me. Ready? Here we go. What are natural resources? They are usable materials. Found in nature. Okay. Some examples: fossil fuels, rocks and minerals, soil, gases in the atmosphere, living organisms, and by that we mean plants, animals, fungi, all those kinds of things. Natural resources fall into one of 2 big categories. What are those 2 big categories? Do you remember? So that would be, I'm sorry, yeah. So that would be for the minerals. Reusable and renewable and non-renewable. Yes. So renewable resources, what does it mean to be a renewable resource? Yeah. So we can use it again. Okay. Resources that are consumed and replaced. Okay. One of the pieces that's important to know about how we're defining renewable is that the renewable resources need to take a short time or a relatively short time to be replaced. By short time, we mean like days, years, maybe even decades. But the reason that I call it that is that I always have a student or 3 that say, I know, okay, hold on, I'm almost there, thank you. I appreciate you keeping me honest, so I will get on it in just a second. Oh my gosh, like it is 27? Holy cow, okay.
Ready?
We're gonna do that tomorrow. Oh man, okay, anyway. Are fossil fuels renewable?
No.
Can we create more fossil fuels?
Yeah. No.
Well, where did fossil fuels come from?
Natural resources. Wait. It's renewable.
Fossil fuels. They came from dead dinosaurs, right? You know that the Sinclair oil company, the gas station that has the dinosaur? It's kind of ironic because it's a dinosaur and that's where the oil comes from, yeah? Now, here's the thing. Shh. Stay with me for a second. So fossil fuels can be made, but is it something that can be made in days, years, or even decades? No, it's not. It's absolutely not. So that means it's not renewable. So examples of renewable, we've got water, we've got biomass.
Water can't be made.
But water can be cleaned. That's the idea there. That's what I'm just copying what this says here. Yeah, sorry. I would agree. But it's that whole. So that would be like trees, that would be like animals, that would be all that stuff. Okay? Non-renewable. Here we go. We're going fast. Cannot be replaced. Okay? Or it takes thousands of years. Okay? Examples here are soil, fossil fuels. Okay? Does that make sense? Really quickly, one last thing we need to write down. The essential resources for survival. I know. I gave it up. What are they? There are 3 of them. You wrote them down before. Water. What was it? Water what? Sunlight. Nah, that's no. Try again. Soil
Water, land, and air.
and air. Those are the big 3. All right. I'm going to call some names, and those people I need to make sure come up and talk to me. Otherwise, hold on to this stuff. We will finish, or we're going to start a new resource tomorrow first thing. Okay? I need to see